You ever watch a man who could buy a skyline drop to his knees for a baby who can't even say his name yet? You ever hear a laugh so clean it slices straight through money marble and pride like it's paper? I did. And that's the day everything I thought I knew about power, mercy, and home got rewritten in a kitchen that used to be quiet as a museum. My name's Gabrielle, and I clean houses for people who rarely look me in the eye. That morning, the daycare was closed. My neighbor was out of town. Rent was 2 weeks behind, and my daughter Helena was 11 months old, with a smile like sunlight. I stood at my front door with a diaper bag, a bus card, and a choice that didn't feel like a choice at all. Do I miss work and risk losing the job that keeps us fed, or do I take my baby with me and pray no one notices? Tell me, do you think that's fair? Crossing the Stanton gates is like stepping from one country into another. Outside, cracked sidewalks, kids chasing a plastic ball, rain smell in the dust. Inside, men with earpieces, hedges cut by a ruler glass, and marble that make you whisper even when you're alone. I slipped through the service entrance set. Helena on the warm kitchen tile gave her a pot lid to drum like a toy, and started my routine. Bucket, broom, rag, breath. My heart pounded so loud I swore the marble could hear it. He walked in early. No announcement, no entourage, just footsteps and a shadow on the doorway. Victor Stanton. People call him a billionaire, like that's his first name. Widower boardrooms, headlines a face that looks carved out of the word no. I froze with the rag in my hand. I was ready for the speech, the firing, the security escort. Instead, I heard fabric rustle soft as a hush. He took off his jacket and folded down to the floor, eye level with my baby, like he'd remembered something important and fragile at the same time. "Hello, little princess," he said, voice careful, not cold. He picked up a wooden rattle and shook it once. Helena squealed and clapped all gums and glory. I couldn't breathe. "Sir, I'm so sorry," I blurted. "The daycare. I had no one today. I know the rules. I'll take her. It won't." He looked up at me, and there wasn't ice in him, not in that second. "You made a mistake bringing her without telling anyone," he said, honest, steady. Then he glanced at Helena, and something in his face gave. "But if that mistake brought this sound back to this house, it might be the most beautiful mistake I've ever seen. You know what I mean. When a simple sentence lands deeper than a poem." He let Helena tug his pocket watch, the kind of old piece men inherit when their names live on buildings, and he kept his hand under hers, so it wouldn't fall, not grabbing, just guarding. He laughed once, like a door creaking open after years, and I felt tears jump before I could hide them. "What's her name?" he asked, without taking his eyes off her. "Helena," I whispered. He tried the name like a password. "Helena. Strong." She patted his cheek with a wet palm like she agreed. For a minute we weren't Billionaire and Maid. We were just three people inside a sound that made the whole place feel different. Then the house remembered itself. Footsteps, a tray, a breath caught on the stairs. Claire, the house manager, peeked and pulled back, not mean, just stunned, the way you are when you see lightning strike in winter. And under the surprise, fear. Because tenderness in a place built on image doesn't always survive the afternoon. Bianca was coming. You could feel that before you saw her. Her heels click in a way that makes rooms stand up straighter. Beige suit hair, perfect perfume that arrives a second before she does. She is Victor's fiancée, in the way a deal is a partner. Polished, precise, always arranging the optics. That night at dinner, she used a butter knife voice to cut the air. "Rumors say you were playing with a child," she said, eyes trained on him, not the steak. He didn't flinch. "Since when is playing with a child a crime?" "It wouldn't be," she said, "if she were yours." "Yeah, that happened. I heard it later in pieces because sound carries in a house that big. He told her maybe the image he had of himself needed to change. She told him I was a risk, a story the press would eat. His fork hit the table hard enough to make glass tremble. Enough, he said. That word traveled, the vents ran down the banister, and found me in the kitchen like a hand on my shoulder. Next afternoon, she came to the kitchen. Found Helena asleep in a nest of folded towels, watched my daughter the way people appraise pearls. Employees who can't separate work and life don't last here, she said, sweet like a blade. My fingers tightened on the dish towel. If you have to report me, I started, and she smiled without warmth. There's always a choice, she said, and left a perfume cloud shaped like a warning. You ever feel a room get staged before anyone says a word? The main hall filled quietly with staff who had heard something was about to happen. Bianca stood in front of the staircase, all white orchids and sharp lines. This house needs order, she announced. Order doesn't include children in the halls. Helena woke, startled by the echo, and started crying. Bianca pointed like a prosecutor. Look, even the child knows she shouldn't be here. Pattern interrupt. Silence heavy as wet wool. Then Victor's voice from the far side, cool and steady, cutting through the hush. Enough, Bianca. He stepped into the space between us, a simple movement that felt like a verdict. If anyone here thinks a child's laughter is a threat, the problem isn't Gabrielle. He swallowed the rest of the sentence because he didn't need to say it. People heard it anyway. That night, I couldn't sleep. My body was tired, and my mind was loud. I cleaned the kitchen to keep my hands from shaking, and found a tin on a high shelf, daisies painted on the lid. Inside, a notebook tied with ribbon pages, softened by time. Elise, his late wife. Neat handwriting and little notes in the margin. Milk bread for sad mornings, add cinnamon. When the world feels hard, serve with low music. I read with my palm on the page like I could feel a heartbeat under the ink, then did the one thing that ever really steadies me. I baked. Flour, eggs, sugar, butter. Stir until your shoulders drop, taste until the batter talks back, slide it into the oven and breathe. The scent of orange and cinnamon lifted into the vents like a lullaby. He came in quiet, sleeves rolled, tie loose, not a president, but a man at the end of a long day. I woke up thinking I was dreaming of cinnamon, he said, and then he saw the name. He didn't get angry. He touched the notebook the way you touch a picture in a frame, gentle, grateful. We stood shoulder to shoulder while the cake rose, and for the first time the space between where he lives and where I survive felt thinner than that kitchen island. We ate the cake warm because Elise's note said, "When silence gets heavy, cut it warm and share without ceremony." He took a bite and his face changed, not younger, just more alive. "It's the same," he murmured, then shook his head, "and not the same. It has something of yours." I told him everything I make passes through Helena now. He nodded, then said he was sorry for Bianca, that he wouldn't let anyone humiliate me. I believed him and didn't, because promises are soft until a storm tests them. Storm. The next day, a family ring went missing. Small safe in the sitting room, old gold history heavy enough to bend a shelf. The rumor ran like a mouse and became a wolf by the time it reached me. Bianca gathered the staff in the main hall, voice amplified by marble. "I've always said bringing outsiders into this house was wrong," she began, then let the silence point at me. "Now we have proof." My knees went loose. "Are you accusing me?" I asked, and even I could hear the courtroom in my voice. "Who else needs the money?" she said, each word rubbed sharp. "If it were you, what would you have done? Would you let them search your things just to make it stop? Or refuse and look guilty to people who already made up their minds?" Victor stepped in front of me again. There will be no search, he said, not one octave louder than normal, and somehow that made the floor feel steadier. Not in my house, not like that. It saved me, and it didn't because suspicion echoes longer than the truth, and the room had breathed it in. Here's the twist. The gardener found the ring the next afternoon in the flower bed, half pressed into soft dirt. He brought it to Claire. Claire brought it to Victor, and he called Bianca in with the ring in his palm, no drama. Care to explain how it got there, he asked. She said it must have slipped from her bag when she took it to be polished. The story was thin, and she knew it, but sometimes people choose armor over honesty. He didn't yell, didn't perform. He just said the one thing that matters after a false accusation. You accused an innocent woman in public. That doesn't vanish. He left it there, a weight she couldn't set down. Relief is heavy when it comes late. I stood in the kitchen shaking, grateful, and still hurt, because clearing your name isn't the same as never having it dragged. And then life did something small and big at once. It moved forward. Victor showed up with dirt under his nails and a sprig of rosemary in his shirt pocket. I asked the gardener to plant lavender and rosemary, he said. A house needs the smell of living things. The staff gathered that evening with mismatched plates, music from somebody's phone, the oven light like a candle in a church. The kitchen felt like a living room. You know what I mean. When a room finally exhales. Stick around, because what happened next will blow your mind. A photo leaked. Not PR, not polished. Someone caught us by the kitchen window in the morning. Me in an apron, Helena reaching for the light, Victor with his sleeves rolled and dirt on his hands, and a lavender sprig peeking out like a joke, he told himself. One blog threw darts, another asked real questions. Comments went feral and kind at the same time. He's soft. She's using him. He's human. She's brave. Claire rushed in, phone shaking, asked if we should take it all down. I should have said yes. Instead, I said, "Don't hide her. I didn't want my daughter treated like a mistake you sweep under a rug." Victor nodded, opened his laptop right there on the counter, and typed without a publicist. My name is Victor Stanton. The photo is real. This child's name is Helena, and she is the daughter of Gabrielle who works in our home. Our kitchen is a place of work and reunion. We are opening a small nap space for the children of the people who keep this house standing. People have names. He posted a picture of the little room we'd just put together. A rug, a borrowed crib, a ribbon mobile turning like a slow yes. Comments flooded. Messy, loud, unfiltered, but under it I felt a chord ring true that I hadn't heard in a long time. Then the board meeting. You can probably picture it. Suits slides with headlines, a giant screen showing that kitchen photo next to the words "Domestic Policy Shift Affects Corporate Image." Bianca sat straight as a metronome. They talked risk precedent shareholders, the cost of softness. Victor let them finish. Then he said, I don't confuse a home and a company, but I understand you can't run them by opposite principles. If my home makes room for the names of people who keep it standing, my company can pilot a small program for parents who can't find daycare, because it's right and because it works. The CFO rolled out numbers. Victor added a column to the spreadsheet and titled it, Cost of Dehumanizing. Some laughed under their breath, then stopped when he paired it with real data on retention and attendance from places that tried something similar. You could hear the mechanism of the room grinding into a different gear. After, in a hallway that echoes, Bianca asked him if he was really going to trade a solid marriage for a kitchen that smells like cake. He didn't raise his voice. I won't humiliate you, he said, but what I feel doesn't fit the mold we agreed to. So it's over, she asked, chin like a blade. It's over, he said, a man who finally put down a suitcase he didn't pack. Life got simpler and fuller all at once. The nap room filled with donations, cloth books with corners chewed by love, a mobile made from ribbon and paper shapes. Dads learned to fold diapers in 15 minutes between tasks. Moms swapped tips like recipes. Victor pushed carts through small markets with me and got lost in the diaper aisle, told me the nicer pack was an investment in sleep. Whose, I asked. Everyone's, he said, grinning like a teenager with a rosemary sprig in his back pocket. We drove through my neighborhood with the windows down, radio low, Helena asleep with her mouth open like someone catching a sweet dream. I showed him the newsstand man who lets me pay later, the cornpot lady who adds a smaller ear for free, the old man who fixes sandals and sings. He didn't pretend to understand the whole map. He just learned the street names one kindness at a time. We didn't call it love. Not at first. We called it belonging steadiness. The relief of finally speaking human, where everything used to be performance. He learned the tune to "You Are My Sunshine" and sang off key in a way that made everyone in the kitchen laugh and lean closer, not away. Claire took a picture when he didn't see of Helena reaching for his pocket watch again, his hand under hers like day one. Guard, not grab. On Helena's first birthday, we hung paper balloons, laid a white tablecloth, glazed an orange cake the way Elise wrote in that notebook. For promising afternoons, cut thick, share warm. The staff came, the gardener's little girl brought a crayon masterpiece, Mrs. Louise cried, without pretending she wasn't, and Victor set a small box on the counter. Inside was the family ring, remade simple like something you could wear while you stirred soup, and a tiny pendant with the letter H made from the leftover gold. He didn't kneel or speechify. He just said he wanted to build a life with us, like a participant, not a commander. I said yes with a laugh that broke and became a cry, because sometimes the right thing arrives like a wave and you say, okay, with your whole body. Helena clapped, because everyone else did, because joy is contagious if you let it be, and still, the world looked in. Another photo made the rounds. Some praised, some cursed. Some wrote whole essays about class and lines and what it means to open a door from the inside. Some said I'd trapped him, some said he'd saved me, some said we were both making a mistake we'd pay for. That's the part that's going to divide the comments. And I welcome it. Because beneath the gossip, there's a question we need to ask out loud. When a mother brings a child to work, because every system around her says, figure it out yourself, who failed? The mother or the structure that leaves no room for that child's name. When a man in power chooses vulnerability over image, is that weakness or is that the muscle? We've all been begging to see flexed in public, and when someone points at order while another person asks for dignity, which one do you want, printed on the door of the place you live and work? If it were you, would you have let them search your bag to prove a point fast, or refused like I did, and stood there under the stare of people who already believed the worst? Would you have posted the kitchen photo or kept your head down because silence feels safer than truth? Here's my ending, the one that still makes me breathe deeper. Late one night after the party, we sat on the kitchen step with chamomile tea. The house wasn't the old hush anymore. It had the sound of clean plates cooling floorboards, settling a refrigerator hum that felt like a lullaby. Helena rolled in her crib and made a small sound. Tried again, pie, then looked up with that serious, maybe-word face babies get. Victor covered his eyes and laughed with tears he didn't hide. I rested my head on his shoulder and let something unclench that had been clenched for years. It wasn't perfect. It was ours. And that's the truth I came here to tell. All right. Your turn. Tell me in the comments where you stand. Is choosing care over image the start of something better, or a naive risk that breaks more than it fixes? Would you defend a worker in a room full of power when the cost is your own reputation, or keep quiet and call it wisdom? And if you've ever had to bring a child to work or hide a part of your life to keep a paycheck, what happened? And what do you wish someone had done? Stick around if this hit you even a little, because the next chapter isn't a fairy tale, it's a blueprint. Kitchens that heal houses, workplaces that learn people's names, leaders who aren't afraid to kneel for what matters. Like the video, if you felt it, subscribe. If you want more true stories told the way they happened, a little messy, a little brave, a lot human. Share this with someone who needs the reminder that belonging is built, not bought. And if you made it this far, drop Helena in the comments, so I know you were here at this counter that smells like cinnamon and second chances listening, with me choosing the kind of world you want to live in.